You may be onto the right vehicle if when your friends get inside and they immediately start testing all the buttons, flipping the visors and say, hey, what does this do? But when you get a minivan, well, I don't expect to wow the crowd. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now this week it is the 2019 Chrysler Pacifica. And with that, I didn't expect a lot of wow factor with the friends, but truly, many of them were impressed. Now, there was no hiding this was a minivan this week, and pretty much a lot of families flagged me down to take them over to the soccer fields or even take a quick run to the grocery store. But what I did like, well, is the exterior. It dressed up just a hair with the kind of smoky accents at the four corners, coupled nicely with kind of the darkened exterior. This is something that truly contrasts where I grew up with the good old wood paneling, even the awkward years of the Chevy Astro and the Ford Windstar. This is far from whence we came. That's what seemed to get some people's attention. It doesn't remind them of, well, how we grew up, so maybe it has a little bit more following than I thought. Typically, guerrilla warfare wins the battle when it comes to overall design, but I think for the Pacifica, the profile sets the tone. First, reminding people exactly what this vehicle is going to deliver, but also when you look at the design elements. Again, for this particular model, the black and darkened accents, the chrome I mentioned 100 times before can make a vehicle look too cheap. This nice and sleek and actually looks like it's dressed to impress. Now, what I like with the Pacifica is, well, they almost push the envelope when it comes to being too boxy, but minimize it just a hair by giving it some aerodynamics. The best part about being boxy on a minivan is it delivers on the inside with the overall cathedral-like feel. Too much sculpting on any vehicle, well, compromises interior space, specifically headroom and cargo. Now, looking at the profile, back to design, again, pretty much tight lines, but up here at the front, maybe a hint of curvaceousness, giving a hint of tapering there towards the back. Right down the middle, this hint of accent and even a flare at the bottom. That takes minivan-esque to the next level. Now, when you look at size, this vehicle by no means is small on the open road. About 204 inches overall, wheelbase about 121. Other numbers to think about is height, fairly subdued, under about 70 inches. That's helpful, of course, in the parking decks and making sure you are low enough to get in those tight spaces. But one area that's going to make you feel a little bit tighter is the width, basically around about 80 inches. Now add about 10 more inches to that, about 90, including the mirrors. So naturally, that's going to make you feel a little claustrophobic, but any novice behind the wheel can definitely handle this vehicle. I always talk about big-sized SUVs and how, well, novices can be a little timid behind the wheel. Certainly a vehicle this big can equally do the same, but what's helping to scale this vehicle down is the safety built in. Basically, the surround view with the cameras mounted under the side mirrors at the back and at the front. Coupling nicely with that is the parking sensors, again at the back and the front. Even better with that is their ultrasonic, really diving into specifically where the impact zones might be. And well, that just helps you get within inches of any, well, scrapes and dings and falling short and, well, looking like an expert. The next thing that makes you look like an expert is Ingress. Being able to keep the smart key in your pocket, walk right up, and it knows you're there. Simply unlocks with ease and pretty much get in. Now, if you want to lock it up, press the button and walk away. Now, one thing that's going to help you a little bit more, and I've talked about it 100 times, is the motion activated systems. Now, I'm not the best at this because I typically just can't find the interaction and tend to look like Elaine on Seinfeld doing the awkward dance. But typically right here on the side, if you have the key in your pocket, you can wave your foot and it opens right up. And this time around, well, it looked like I knew what I was doing. The Pacifica is known for being a people hauler, but even better, it can deliver cargo at the same time. Now, before we dive inside, let's talk about the design here at the back end. First off, you're looking at monochromatic color scheme sweep around here to the back. No chrome to be found, even right down to the Chrysler emblem. That was one area that I thought they would bling out, but thankfully they subdued it, keeping with the overall theme. Now, we talked about quick access, really getting into the front, even that motion activated side door. Well, all that continues here at the back end. Now, traditionally, you can use the key fob, reach down to the handle, but if your hands are full, just simply walk right up, wave your leg, and the back opens with ease. One thing that helps with delivering overall cargo space here at the back end is this sunken down floor, really giving you a total of 32 cubic feet. Now, when the second row is stowed, that's going to give you nearly triple the amount of space, just under 90 cubic feet with the second row in place. That's tons of extra cargo and still room enough on this particular model with 4 individuals. Now, if you do want to lay all this flat, what's even better on this particular model is it's, well, not a manual operation, but a power. Just simply reach over here on the side, press a button, and it's easily going to stow with ease. One of the best features here on the Pacifica really is the ability to transform from people hauler to cargo in one fell swoop. Now, you saw it there at the back end, really folding that third row into a void. Now, that compared to SUVs just typically leave the seats in place. They just fold. That's going to compromise the overall cargo by some means. Here on the Pacifica, really one huge flat floor. And the way it works here in the second row, move the front seats as forward as they can go. Simply pull the handle here on the floor, revealing the void. Now, what's great is this cargo covering stays in place, making it so much easier to maneuver this seat. Then all you got to do is simply pull this handle here. That's going to make it slide forward, and it basically goes into the floor. Now, what you do need to do is make sure it locks, because it does have a little bit of spring. That's going to make sure it stays in place. Then just simply fold this back, and you got one nice cargo floor. Even better, the mats that are typically where the people sit and put their feet, well, that stays in place, doesn't need to be removed. Anytime you see a minivan driver, one thing you expect is they have some place to go, so they definitely have to deliver when it comes to horsepower on the hood. And specifically, this vehicle comes with a 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine. Now, it's going to deliver around about 287 horses and 262 foot-pounds of torque. It is also coupled to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And what does that translate at the end of the day? Well, occasionally, if you do have to boot, scoot, and boogie, you might get a little bit of tire spin and squill in the wheels. Certainly, to be driven in a Chrysler Pacifica is a huge reward, and I'll show you the kind of benefits there at the back with the entertainment system, but also the driver has some great perks, and it really starts with the center infotainment system. Now, it all starts with the Uconnect up top. Really, we've seen this on many Chrysler, and the huge touchscreen system that makes life so much easier. Now, down here is the shortcuts, but you do have various apps that you can make your favorites simply by dragging down, setting down here at the bottom, makes for quick reference. But one big feature that I've really been drawn to as of late are the climate controls. Now, certainly the traditional controls are down here below. Nice knob when it comes to fan speed, dual control zones up front, and of course the tri-zone system there at the back. But what I like is the ability to really just kind of interact with the screen, because naturally this upper screen is barely a glance down, and everything's just right there, real touch sensitive, just kind of drag up and down, just like we use our phones or iPads and all that. This really interacts. Now, what you also, again, still have the shortcuts down below, so you can navigate with these, so never really are you lost on one particular screen, because you can just simply find your way by, utilizing the icons. Down below the Uconnect system, I like the fact that this lower area really kind of comes out towards the driver and angles up for quicker reference versus a straight front you traditionally find. Now, over here on the left is your gear shifter, not traditional by any means, just a good old knob. Now, one thing to note, I tended to be quick on this when I pulled up somewhere, tended just to switch it over there to park. A lot of times I didn't pay attention, actually would go to reverse, but I'd go ahead and turn the vehicle off, and it would kind of alarm and let me know it's not in park. One thing I would prefer, since it is kind of an electronic system, and I've seen versions of this on other vehicles, on those vehicles, when you do not get to park, it wouldn't hurt if you turn the vehicle off and it's in neutral or whatever, it automatically electronically puts you in park, because, well, what other point really would you want to do except to get it over there? But otherwise, it's real easy to use. Just make sure you do fully engage which gear you want. Now, back over here, traditional controls again on the bottom for climate, but as for stereo system entertainment, you basically have the standard volume control, tune select, some menu select, but I tend not to interact with this as much, because of course on the steering wheel, tons of operation that you can interact with. So this is just maybe for the passenger co-pilot up front to interact. Now, right through here, a lot of features. You do have the auto start stop feature. That basically is that engine component where it shuts it down, cranks it up. that kind of thing. I tend to like to turn that off. Unfortunately, every time you get in the vehicle, you will have to engage that button if you don't want it. You do have lane departure as well as parking sensor override and traction control. Don't forget, this vehicle does have a little boot scoot and boogie, so you can squeal the wheels surprisingly. Now over here on the far left is parking sensors, which basically means when you put this on, it will allow you to get this vehicle to park on its own. And the way it works is simply you put it over there, and then you're going to engage here with the steering wheel. Now you do have the parallel parking, or you can do perpendicular. And of course, if you experienced this before, it will tell you what to do, and the steering wheel pretty much will navigate itself. You pretty much are just going to control the pace of the minivan. Down low on the dash, you will have connectivity in the form of USB auxiliary jack. You do have this kind of deep tray here. You can put your phone or other electronics. You will tend to forget that they are there, so it's just one thing to think about. I would prefer that this is kind of that wireless charging system, since it is out of the way. Wouldn't hurt to put one there. Do have a DVD player as well, which would of course interact with the backseat entertainment. Tons of storage here on the Pacifica, but also just going to be found everywhere with this huge tray. Going to have coin holders as well as just a deep pocket you can put some items in. Down below you will find another rubber matted area and connectivity down there as well. Between the front occupants, you will find this center console. It's not traditional in the sense of like a typical sedan. This is not where you're going to find elbow support, but instead you'll have these nice armrests for the front captain's chairs. Nice dual cup holders. And I like the fact they have nice spongy material, really holds the drinks with ease no matter how big or narrow the drinks are. Now you're not going to find a deep pocket in here, but you do have this nice little shortcut here. Nice shallow tray, nice and illuminated. Put your devices in there. What you will find that takes up the rest of the space is this long drawer that is for the second row occupants. Again, dual cup holders, and going to be some storage there for the entertainment to put the headphones and all the other operation. On the steering wheel, you're going to find controls for the cruise on the right. You do have that proximity spacing there when it comes to cruise, setting the space between other vehicles, and the car pretty much sets the tone of how fast you can go. On the left side is going to be the pretty much operation for your phone and interacting with the LCD screen between the gauges. Now the most impressive really is the digital readout for speed. That just tends to be what I go to. Other information I may interact with here and there. Left and right, traditional analog, tach, and speedometer, but really that oversized speedometer, I tend to over mention the fact that a digital readout is just a crucial glance down versus the old traditional needle. I just like specifics of how fast I'm going. Just in case you want to gaze at the stars, you will have a huge sunroof up above, as well as the third row having its own little portal as well. Now what you do is just simply press this right here, and it will reveal quite a bit of glass that extends all the way to the back. Now naturally the first go is just going to be halfway, but if you do press it again, it will extend even further, and as you can tell, really extends past the front row and second row, with the third row again getting in kind of its own little porthole. For backseat drivers, you will have dual screens for entertainment, but by no means are they standard. First off, they have multiple inputs, the old standard DVD, as well as inputting maybe a PlayStation and so on. But what I like is the fact that when there's no entertainment basically ready to display at leisure, you can just have backseat drivers select the Fun and Game app, which is right there in the middle. Now this is going to be kind of educational and maybe age appropriate, but you do have the old license plate game, you do have mathematics, and just some great traditional. Even better is this side of the screen can interact with the right side, so the good old tic-tac-toe can be a two-person game that you play with a partner beside you. Now, judge, for this edition, we're awarding a test drive behind the wheel of the 2019 Chrysler Pacifica, a vehicle that makes no apologies about its straightforward design, more or less reminding everyone that this is a minivan, because after all, when they get inside, that's when they forget where they are, and most people tend to start to act like a kid, especially with all the entertainment that came in on this vehicle, not to mention the ability to transform it from people to cargo, especially with that stow and go seating, something SUVs just can't well compete with. Even better, the overall kind of lower stance makes for ease of ingress for everyone. Even better, when you actually do deliver cargo, ease of ingress back and forth with those boxes. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.